Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Full Stream Ahead, the second iteration of our little opera gala online service for you all. My name is Jamie, this is Jan, and welcome. Thank you for coming. This week we have some fantastic performers, all of whom are skimming along the top up here, so you all know exactly what's going on. And we are raising money for our singers and our pianists and harpsichord players via our crowdfunder link, which we will be sharing with you shortly. But again, thank you so much for coming. It's great to see you all here.
Just a note about the recordings. These are all pre-lockdown archive videos, but the exciting news is that we are now also equipped to stream live concerts. So if you want to put on a live streaming event and you find a venue that will let you do so in a socially distanced, responsible manner, then do get in touch with us, because we're keen to make this as live as possible. Today we are going to explore the world of Baroque music, but just for a bit of contrast, we've also thrown in some 20th century arias, and we're going to have our artists joining us live on air. First, we're going to talk to Lucy Knight, soprano, and O.J. Ruthven, who is our harpsichordist, and then later on, we're going to talk to Kitty Whately and Anthony Gregory. We're not going to be talking to one person who you will see performing, so we'd like to send a massive thank you to Christopher Gould, who is the pianist for Kitty and Anthony. Jamie?
So we'd just like to say, if you guys have got any questions that you want to ask our guests, or any comments you want to say about their singing or anything at all, do chuck it in the chat box. We will be keeping tabs on it all the way through. But we will also be putting some program notes throughout so that you can keep tabs on what's being sung and what's being said and what's been going on. Yeah, so it's not just an online opera gala. We're just showing you stuff. There's a little bit of other stuff going on as well. See if you can spot it all. So moving on with that, we're going to move straight on to our first set of music, which is Monteverdi and Rameau. Enjoy.
Oh, felice, felice Drusilla. Oh, che spero, che spero. Corre, corre adesso, corre adesso. Corre, corre adesso, corre adesso. Per me l'ora fatale. Perirà, morirà, morirà. Perirà, 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 morirà la mia rivale. E otton, finalmente, otton, finalmente, sarà mio, 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 sarà mio. Oh, che spero, che sperio, se le mie bestie avran servito ben coprirlo con vostra pace, oh Dei, adorar io vorrò, gli arnesi miei. Oh, felice, felice Giusilla. Oh, che spero, che sperio. Addio Roma. Addio patria. Amici, amici. Innocente da voi partir convengo, vado a patir l'esilio, i pianti amari, navi dico disperata, i sordi mari, l'aria che d'ora in ora riceverà i miei fiati, li porterà per nome del cor mio a veder, a baciarli padre mura. Ed io starò solinna, alternando le mosse ai pianti e ai passi, insegnando pietate ai tronchi e ai sassi. Remicate, remicate, remicate oggi voi, perverse gente, allontanatevi, allontanatevi o morto dagli amati lidi. Ai, 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 sacrifico giù, tutto. Tu m'interdici il pianto mentre lascio la patria. Tu m'interdici il pianto mentre lascio la patria. Mi stillar una lacrima possiamo, mentre dico ai parenti e a Roma, mi stillar una lacrima possiamo, mentre dico ai parenti e a Roma. Addio. Chaîne de flaques des feux en pénètre, toi comme triompher toujours. Les vœux d'un Anacréon me les firent connaître, qu'il me présageait de beaux jours. Père aimable, je n'irai
How amazing was that? And we are joined by our performers, Oliver John Ruthven and Lucy Knight. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
I love that music. It's just so unlike anything that I'm sort of used to hearing or performing, and it's so crunchy. I always listen to it like I listen to jazz music, but maybe that's just me. What draws you guys to the Baroque and Renaissance repertoire? What is it that you love about it?
Oh, I love the sound of a Baroque orchestra. The gut strings, the period instruments, you can't beat it. And I think what you were just saying about it being so much like jazz, it really is. It's a lot of Baroque music. It's basically dance music. It all stems from the bass, and it's so crunchy and good.
Absolutely, I totally agree, and it's actually got such a width of a variety of timbre, a variety of types of music. Obviously, it's pre-symphony, but there's so much. There's opera, there's chamber music, there's solo repertoire, and everything can be compressed down so easily. But as Lucy says, the sound of a full orchestra is like no other. It's amazing.
And we're really lucky to sort of live in times where that sound is coming back in a huge way, and has been for a while now. I wanted to ask you what draws you to the harpsichord as an instrument, and how can you be so expressive on something that doesn't have any of those modern tools that you find on a piano, like dynamics and the sensitivity of touch?
Sure, it's a really good question. There are obvious limitations, but within that, there is actually a lot of scope for variety. So, I mean, purely making more sound, making it louder, is a question of playing more notes, basically. Some harpsichords have more courses of strings. Most of the time, I tend to play on instruments that have 2 strings per key, and you can couple and uncouple. That's basically putting one set of strings, hearing one set of strings and the other, and then coupling them means both are playing. So that gives you a little bit more sound. It's more complicated than that, but that does give you a little bit more.
Just for my geekiness, are they ideally in tune? Are they identical strings, or does it change the sound as well if they're like slightly out, or if they're of a different material?
They ought to be in tune with one another. Mm-hmm. But they are going to produce slightly different sounds, and that could be the way that they've been voiced. So the plectra, which the jacks and the plectra can be voiced in a certain way, and the felts, which damp the string afterwards, can also be. We're getting very geeky now. Can also be tempered and changed to create different sounds. So, for example, on my harpsichord, which is a very basic instrument, actually, I've got one set of strings which is a slightly softer, sweeter sound than the other, which is a bit crunchier and punchier.
Lucy, what about you? What is it that really appeals to you in the singing of this repertoire? What kinds of expression are available in this older music that you don't necessarily get in the kind of romantic and even the classical repertoire?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, there are sort of stylistic things which are quite specific to Baroque music, so ways of phrasing and shaping, and certain colours that I might not use in later rep. But then it's also, there's a huge kind of improvisatory element that you don't necessarily get in later music. So a lot of the things aren't actually prescribed in the music. So the dynamics, the ornamentation, that's all up to the singer. So it's quite a creative process. Even a lot of what OJ does on the harpsichord is improvised. You know, you've got the basic bass line, but you're fleshing it out and you're kind of working together to find lots of new colors and effects. And yeah, it's a rewarding sort of genre of music to be involved in. And a lot of the work we do is kind of ensemble based, or a lot of the stuff OJ and I have done together, ensemble and consort. And it's just so great making music with your friends. And you know,
I mean, that's why we're all here.
Yeah, it's the thing I've missed most.
It's so exciting because it's so up for interpretation. You do, something by Monteverdi where effectively all you've got is a vocal line and a bass line. Maybe there are a few figures underneath to give you a feel for the harmony, but even those sometimes are up for grabs, and you can then flavour that bass line with any number of different instruments, And that's so exciting. It could just be a single lute, or it could be 4 chitaroni, 2 chamber organs, a harpsichord, a lirone, as well as bowed instruments. It's got so, and all of that is a sound practice, and is and is expressive in its own way. It's wonderful.
Lucy, I wanted to ask you whether you, because you mentioned the improvisation in this music. Do you write out all your ornamentation, or do you sometimes just go off on one and sort of fly by wire?
I think we usually experiment in the rehearsals, and I don't really write it out. I think maybe in something like Handel, if you were doing a really kind of complicated thing, I might write that in. But with a lot of the stuff, it's just a case of seeing what works in the rehearsals, and then eventually you kind of come to find your favourite little twiddles here and there.
OJ, you've been performing online before you came on our show. Can you tell us a bit about your concert series? Because there's a lot of you in it.
There is a lot of me in it. Yeah, I'm afraid. Yeah. I decided a little while ago, really wanting to do more performing and not having anyone else really to perform alongside. I thought, well, let's do something. So I started messing around and recording a few things and doing layered things. So a bit of singing, bit of playing. And I came up with an idea of doing a little mini concert series called Concerts for Heroes, which is in aid of a charity called Masks for NHS Heroes. Basically, it's raising money for PPE for frontline NHS workers. They've raised actually a huge amount. They've raised over 2 million already. So
amazing.
What I've raised is a tiny amount of that, but it's been really nice to have something for me to do, something creative to do, and I've put out 2 concerts there on my YouTube channel, and there are more to come. The next one's going to be a collaboration with a violinist friend of mine, Davina Clark, which should be nice, and that's a Baroque program, Bach and Handel and a few other things. So yeah, it's been fun, really nice.
Yeah, and everyone should definitely check it out. Before I let you guys go, I'm sort of glancing. Oh, yes, Jamie's put the link to the concert series in the chat. I'm glancing at the chat to see if anyone has any questions. But before I let you guys go, Arch, you showed us something absolutely amazing before we came on air, and I feel like we owe it to our millions of viewers for you to demonstrate it again.
By all means, be delighted to. This is something that I was given ages ago, and I just put together quite recently. It's Lego Aston Martin, which is pretty incredible. Everything. I mean, it's like if I'd known that this was a thing when I was 10 years old, I wouldn't have been able to sleep. It's just amazing. Look at that, incredible. The doors
and
open.
It's even got the ejector seat, doesn't it?
Yeah,
the James Bond one.
Get the ejector seat to work. Here we go. Ready? Oh yes.
Oh, amazing.
Right, well, it's been wonderful having both of you on, and thank you so much for joining us. I know that you're both juggling family life as well with this lockdown, so the fact that you made this time to come on here has been amazing. And all the best.
It's been a joy. Thanks for having us, Jan.
My pleasure. Our pleasure. I think we're ready to launch into some more music. Which I believe is going to be quite a bit of Handel, but first some Tendre.
In seinem Schlaf petto, i più flagelli armate, ho dentro il cuore tre furie, gelosia, sento ed amore. E da più cuore io sento, quasi mastin crudele, il rimorso latrar per mio tormento. Chiamandomi infedele, spergiuro, usurpator, empio e tiranno. Prezioso è dell'alma il riposo al par del trono. Pastorello d'un povero armento, pur dorme contento, sotto l'ombra d'un faggio d'alboro. Pur dorme contento, pastorello d'un povero armento, pur dorme contento, sotto l'ombra d'un faggio d'alloro. Pur dorme contento, sotto l'ombra d'un faggio d'alloro. Fastoso non trovo riposo, non trovo riposo, sotto l'ombra di porpora ed oro, non trovo riposo, sotto l'ombra di tiranno è fiero, egli non merita di respirar, egli non merita di respirar. Mi sveglia l'ira, che corse è vero, sua morte solo mi può placar, sua morte solo mi può placar. Mi sveglia l'ira, che corse è vero, sua morte solo mi può placar, sua morte solo mi può placar. Laura che spera, tirando è fiero, egli non merita di respirare, egli non merita di respirare. Laura che spera, tirando è fiero, egli non merita di respirare, egli non merita di respirare, di respirare, di respirare, egli non merita di respirare. Laura che spira, tirando è fiero, egli non merita di respirar, egli non merita di respirar.
I have to talk. Why do I have to talk? Oh dear, Jamie's not turned his microphone on.
Absolute disgrace I am. I not turn my microphone on. What an aria that is, and a series of absolute Handelian masterworks with Anthony Gregory and Kissy Whately, who are here with us now. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi, guys.
welcome.
Good evening.
How you doing?
We're good.
Yeah?
The babies are in bed. We're full of spaghetti bolognese.
Yeah, I noticed you were really shoveling it in during the first set of music. It was quite a sight to behold.
Have you ever eaten spaghetti bolognese while at the same time performing to an audience of
No,
dozens?
it's a whole new
No.
adventure for us.
Have you ever eaten on stage?
Yeah.
While singing?
Yeah, pies. It was brilliant. Sweeney Todd.
Sweetie Todd, you were just happy to sing through a pie. That's extraordinary. Really pop that straight on the top of the CV. That's what you want. So, guys, thank you so much for coming and joining us tonight and being a part of this. It's great to have you here.
Exactly.
I mean, both of you just sing Handel so naturally. Is it something that you guys enjoy doing, or is it something that you kind of like? Is there another style of music that you sort of feel fits your voices better than that? Because I mean, it fits you both so well.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
Yeah, all right.
Very kind.
Great. So we're going to move on to some more music. Oh no, sorry, you got.
I mean, to be fair, I don't know about you, but we had such good opportunities at the RCM to perform Handel, because we did a production of a Handel opera once a year, and I think because we had so much exposure at college, for me personally, it was something that I fell in love with as soon as I started doing it. It's certainly not something that I thought, oh, my voice suits that, therefore I'm going to sing Handel. It was something that I was exposed to, and we got lots of coaching, and then in the productions, obviously, a lot of acting and stage time. So it's something that I kind of learnt and felt that it was, a natural thing for me to do.
Yes, I absolutely love it. There's so much repertoire that I love, so I wouldn't say that it's my main love, but among many different genres that I enjoy, I absolutely love Handel. I love the characters. I find the characters really interesting. I feel really comfortable in the coloratura stuff. I find it really fun.
Yeah, I think as British singers as well, we're sort of semi-trained and to put Handel on our resume quite early on. I think it's something that all of us have to do at some point, and it's sort of within our musical language as British performers. Do you find?
I'm nodding. I'm not even a British performer, but yes.
Oh, you are at heart. You are to us. But you know what I mean? Like, it's very much, especially on these isles, it's very much part of the language. And if you spend any time here, you're guaranteed to have to sing Handel at some point. It's just one of those. I think that feeds through so much. Sorry, mate. Go on.
Because obviously the British kind of choral tradition and a sort of preconception that British singers have smaller voices, so it kind of automatically then fits with Baroque music. I don't know whether why we have such an affinity with as a British singer going into and singing Baroque music.
I suppose it comes down to. Sorry, Kitty.
I was going to say that the Royal College of Music have a really nice relationship with English touring opera, and around the time that Anthony and I were at RCM, ETO were doing a big sort of Handel festival. I think they did all the Handel operas. So we were really lucky with the timing of that we got to be involved in that, covering in it and appearing in some of them. I was in Flavio and Giulio Cesare, and then we did Rodelinda at college. So we just, the timing for us, our generation, we just happened to be a big Handel-y generation.
But at the time. We've got a question from Rosie Brady in the chat. Who says, personally, I struggle to connect with the earlier music pre-music college. What advice would you give to young singers approaching this music, both performance-wise and musically/technique? Do you find it's a big question. She's really gone for it.
That's easy question.
Thanks a lot, Rosie.
Should we break it up into bite-sized chunks?
Well, starting out, I would just say listen to as much of it as you can, and there's such a massive amount of it on YouTube now that you can see the most incredible singers doing the most brilliant things with it, really interesting productions and incredible different interpretations and different ornamentations. So I would definitely start out by nurturing a love for it, by hearing it and seeing what's possible.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of think it's just because you felt at college it wasn't one of those things which you had an instant affinity with. It might be one of those styles of music and genres that actually, when you go back to it, having sung lots and exposed yourself to other repertoire, that it is actually something you can relate to technically, that you can bring things that you've learnt back to it, and sort of rediscover it for a second time, maybe.
But it is hard. There's a lot of challenges that come with it. I think particularly Handel, if you're not naturally comfortable with coloratura, then it can be really, really off-putting when you start out, and it can be a real struggle, and it can take months and months and months to get the hang of it.
Yeah. I was going to ask, how do you nail coloratura? Is it something that you just have to have in the voice already, or is it something you can train yourself into?
Yeah, I've always been quite comfortable with it, and Ant has struggled with it, haven't you? But you...
Yeah, I'm truly not very good at it.
Wow.
I think it's different for different people. Like, I remember watching one of those ROH masterclasses with, I think it was Joyce DiDonato was doing it, and she was talking to a tenor who was singing a Rossini aria. And to hear her sing coloratura, you would imagine it's purely natural. It's so even, easy. But she explained in this masterclass that it's hours and hours and hours and hours, years of work. So whether anyone is truly kind of natural at it, I certainly I'm not. So it's just practice. It's just practicing it,
taking it apart.
Yeah.
Changing the rhythm around. I remember doing a lot of that when I did my undergraduate at Guildhall with our Italian coach. He would have us change the rhythm, sort of so it's dotted, or just play around with it so that you don't get stuck in a certain way. Repeating it, doing it in slow motion, and then slowly building it up. A brilliant coach, Michael Pollock, who taught both of us at RCM. Had us putting emphasis on unexpected parts of the coloratura, sort of in a kind of jazzy, syncopated way, which is brilliant. And I always use that because it stops you hitting it on the beat. So it keeps it a bit more fluid.
It also means that you take care of all those notes that you might be tempted to rush past.
Yeah. It's always the little notes. I mean, again, that was part of the great thing about having so much exposure to it at college, was that you were giving these coachings with Baroque specialists, conductors, and taught these tricks. Obviously, very experienced, and we were both kind of novices, and certainly stylistically, to be able to have those tricks to take away and practice was kind of invaluable, really.
I think also as an actor, Handel can be quite challenging because it's such a tiny amount of text that's repeated over and over and over and over again, and particularly when you don't have a director and you're just preparing it for an audition or a recital, you're kind of out on your own trying to find a way to make these lines fresh and mean something different each time, and often all you're taught is you need to make it different each time and not how. So that can be a real challenge, and it can be off-putting, I think.
How do you do it?
I usually, so for instance with this one, when I was preparing this for our video, I imagined that I had 3 different people that I was talking to. So I had a friendly person who was on my side, the person that I was singing the aria to, somebody that I really hated, and an audience who were judging me, I think. So I had 3 different motivations. I had somebody who I was saying, my friend, I was saying, you understand what I mean, don't you? You understand this, you're with me on this. And this person I was saying, I hate you, I want you to die, you don't deserve to breathe. And then the audience, I was saying, you can't judge me, don't judge me for wanting this guy to die, this is what he's done to me. So try to have different areas of motivation for each line. I tried to draw out a structure for the aria, so you work out what journey the character's going to go on from the beginning of the aria and then through the B section and then into the repeat. Where do you want to end up at the end that's different from the beginning? What journey have you been on, or what have you learned from this 6 minutes of coloratura?
Yeah, I always think that's very much key, isn't it, to remember that the aria is as much a journey as the recit is. You always get taught the idea that the recit moves the story on, and that the aria is usually just a physical embodiment of the emotion that you're having at that. But there is always a story throughout that music to be told. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I suppose. And
you've also got this.
Sorry, go on. You're way more interested than I am.
You've also got these long instrumental sections where you're not singing to fill, and again, without a director, that can be really awkward. And I think for the video, for the purposes of our video, actually, we cut it. But
there are other tricks you can employ in videos, as Anthony's going to show us in the next segment.
Cutting the bits that you can't sing.
So of course, along with Handel and early music and things, obviously Britain and English song are very much in both of your wheelhouses. Kitty, you've obviously got 2 stunning albums, both with Chaps Hill Records, of music with Quilter, Gurney, Vaughan Williams, and I think the Southern Eden is mixed in with poetry as well, isn't it? Christina Rossetti, Houseman. You can tell us a little bit about sort of that particular record, about how much of a personal venture it was for you.
Oh, it was hugely personal. It was my first ever record, and it was with my whole family, really. My mum and dad were reading poetry, so the idea, which Joseph Middleton came up with, he was playing on the album, of songs that sort of represent the different aspects of the British landscape. and poetry that sort of reflected that or complemented that. So mum and dad, who are both actors, were reading in between the music, and my daughter, who was about 7 at the time, I think, appears in all the album artwork. So it was massively personal, but unfortunately hardly anybody buys the CDs because you can get it all digitally now, so you don't get any of the pictures. But if you wanted to buy,
absolutely, we'll be sharing the link to that right in the chat right this minute, to make sure everyone gets on there and supports you and your work and your music. And as you alluded there, of course, you're both parent opera singers, and that sort of must lead to a huge set of challenges for both of you in terms of having a family life and also continuing on with a professional life. What sort of challenges have you guys found most common in both being performers and both being parents?
Well, the challenge is when you both get offered a job at the same time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you toss a coin?
Actually, that hasn't happened quite, has it? Luckily, actually, we've been able to kind of segue
on the whole.
Most of the time. It's really tricky. We kind of say this to everyone that asks about how you juggle it. Every job we have to kind of sit down and discuss. Can we emotionally, financially, musically, do this? And is it worth doing? How long is it going to mean we're away? Logistically, can we do it? So it's a real challenge. And I guess we're both very aware of having a balance. So neither of us try and sort of dominate in a way that
we try and make sure that both of us are getting a fair share of time for our careers.
Yeah, cool.
Luckily, we've got extremely helpful grandparents on both sides. There's just no way that we could do this, but it is a really, really difficult thing. I'm part of a charity, co-founded a charity called Swopera a couple of years ago, which is set as supporting women and parents in opera, which is partly looking at the sort of gender imbalances in opera in general, but the parent side is very much in support of mothers and fathers in opera, and it's been a really, really interesting sort of venture, trying to look into ways of making the opera industry a bit more accessible to people who have caring responsibilities.
I suppose as well, one of the things with being a parent in the opera industry is you sort of just have to make it work. There's obviously a lot of sacrifice for everybody, and it's just one of those things that you kind of have to just find a way.
Yeah.
Know the moments when to be selfish, say, and when to be selfless, and to just make it work somehow.
Yeah, a lot of people say, when's a good time, or say I'm not ready to have a baby yet, and I always say to people, I really don't think there is a good time. There is no good time to have a baby in this career. You just have to do it and like you say, make it work. Yeah. But I'm sort of very aware of preaching this message with Swopera that it is possible and you can do it. That we're in a lucky position because we have so much support from our parents.
But also I think it would be harder if one of us was working a lot more. We're lucky we have quite balanced careers in terms of the work we're offered. We are able to kind of feel like we are managing it equally. Where some couples, musical couples, one of them is away 80% of the year, and vice versa. It's lucky that our careers enable us to balance it quite nicely.
Yeah.
But it's just a logistical nightmare.
It's just so utterly unenjoyable, the logistical side of it.
I suppose at this situation, at least you're logistically both sort of in the same place at this point. You can kind of.
It's very simple. Everyone's locked down.
So what sort of
logistically very simple?
Exactly. So what sort of things have you guys been enjoying, having so much time to be able to sort of spend on your own selves? And is there anything about yourselves that you've sort of yes, very good.
I don't have to sing tomorrow.
No, absolutely not.
We haven't been enjoying doing anything for ourselves. We literally spend every second of every day being like wiping bottoms and homeschooling.
Of course.
There's absolutely nothing productive going on here. There's no learning of a new language or a new instrument or painting of the house or anything like that. It's literally
I suppose it's a good opportunity to kind of catch up with life a little bit instead of being taken on the roller coaster that it is normally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And drink those bottles of wine you've been meaning to drink all that time.
Copious.
Absolutely right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and being a part of this. We really appreciate your time. Obviously, you're very busy people. We really appreciate your time. We've got lots of links in the chat regarding things you can do and ways you can help support Anthony and Kitty. So thank you so much for doing that, which I know you all will. So we're going to move on, I think, to some more fantastic music, some Adamo and some Britain to finish us off. Thanks, guys, again for chatting, and we'll see you again
pleasure.
soon. All right, see you later, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 But I do love you. Of course I love you. No sweeter sister, no dearer friend. But once I saw him, and once he looked at me. I can't explain it, Joe. I love you. Things end. No. Things change, Joe. Things change. You're a babe at the breast. You're a daughter by the fire. You have all the love you think you could desire. Still, things change, Joe. And what happens when they do? Your heart, Joe. Your heart. It's a bird in the nest with its head beneath its wing. Half asleep, it cannot know it wants a thing. Still, your heart, Joe, I know will dream of something new, something that broke within me, a secret word. Was it spoke within me? By some decree, the girl I used to be, she's simply gone. I cannot say, I do not know who stirred, who spoke within me. She loves her mother, loves her father, her sisters, of course. But once a child, things change, Joe. Angels and pilgrims in heaven rejoice. They change. You're a rosebud in the night. You're a blossom in the morn. You're unmade by that light, yet reborn. Things I'm all things strange and bold. The riderless horse, snorting, stamping, stamping on the hard sea sand. The hero highwayman, plundering, plundering, plundering the land. I am King Midas with gold in his hand. I am the smooth world's double face. Mercury, Mercury, Mercury's heels, feathered with mischief and a god's deceit. The brittle blandishment of counterfeit. In me secrets are formed desires meet. I am the hidden life that stirs when the candle is out. Upstairs and down, the footsteps barely heard, the unknown gesture, the soft persistent word. The long sighing flight of the night winged bird. Miles, miles, miles,
Stunning stuff. Wonderful to have Anthony and Kitty with us to join us. And Jan has apparently not arrived. That's a bit concerning. I'm sure it'll be fine though. Jan, you there? You are there. Here you are.
Hear me?
Here you are. Apologies.
It's always this segment where you either mute me or you hide me from view.
I just want people to remember that, you know. It's fine. Anyway, I'm sure no one noticed. No one noticed, did you? Good. Thank you all so much for joining us for our second and not quite yet perfected full stream ahead stream. We will get it right next week. We have one final piece for you all to enjoy, some Bach from Lucy and OJ to come shortly after this. But again, thank you all so much for coming.
And I've just got some parish notices. If you've enjoyed yourself, please give what you can to support our artists directly through the crowdfunder. Even the tube fare that you'd have had to pay to go to a free recital, it all adds up, so thank you. We're also putting up a link to Black Lives Matter charities in the chat box, so if we could all join in supporting that cause, that would be fantastic. We're going to keep doing this stream, so join us in 2 weeks for something that's not quite opera. But for now, here's some Bach.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.